Really quickly, I'd like to introduce myself. I am the host of today's Kernel of Knowledge webinar. My name is Bobby Newman, and I'm the Community Engagement and Outreach Specialist for the Greater Midwest region of the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, housed here at the University of Iowa, which is all just a really long way of saying it's my responsibility to connect public libraries in our 10-state service area, as well as those of you from across the nation with resources related to health and wellness in public libraries. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go ahead and hand over control of the webinar to Ashley. I had the honor of seeing Ashley present at the Association of Small and Rural Libraries in Springfield, Illinois in September, and I asked her to present this webinar for us. Ashley, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Sure.
There we go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Batchelder. I am the Assistant Children's Librarian at the Mount Zion District Library in Mount Zion, Illinois. And so today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about our music and movement program that we developed a couple years ago here at the library. I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off. So first, I wanted to share with you a little bit of the demographics about Mount Zion. It is a village with a population of about 6,000 people. Our district does serve that very specific number, 12,682 people. We are kind of a little suburb of the bigger town of Decatur, Illinois. So the nice thing about that is we are a part of the Illinois Heartland Library System. So there are a ton of small libraries in the area. We're all a part of the same system. We don't discriminate against anyone. We welcome everyone who's in that system to use our library, and vice versa. We encourage them to use other libraries as well. And that extends into our programs. So in order to come to our programs, you do not have to be a member of the Mount Zion Library. You can be a member at Decatur. I've had some from some of the other surrounding areas as well. So our program, and I'll get into this a little later, is geared towards infants 6 months through 24 months old and their caregivers. And before we started this program, the nearest free program for infants was about 30 minutes away. It is at another library. It's called Baby Talk, which is great. It's a great program, but for some of the parents in our community, that just isn't a great option for them to have to drive that far to find a program for their infant. There's a ton of programs for toddlers, whether it be different story times. We also have a children's museum nearby, and they often have programs, but for the little ones, there wasn't very much in the community, and that's something that I noticed right off the bat. So our library offers 3 storytime sessions. The first one is Sleepy Time Tales. It's an hour-long family story time that we have in the evening once a week. And this is, like I said, for families. So it's all ages. We have families that are bringing toddlers up to age 7 or 8. So that's a great option for parents who work and have children that, like it says on here, are varying ages. Then we have Toddler Time, which is on Wednesday mornings. It's a half-hour-long story time for toddlers ages 18 months through 3 years old. It's very similar in structure to our storytime session, which is our hour-long traditional story time for preschool kids, but it is kind of simplified for the toddlers, and it's only a half hour versus an hour because they kind of have trouble sitting for that long. So then we have our story time session. I started at the library in January of 2016, And as I said before, I immediately noticed that there was nothing for patrons under 18 months old. Now, there were parents that would bring their infants along to story time, sometimes even to toddler time and sleepy time tales, but those programs are just not geared towards the little tiny ones. They're geared towards the kids who are preschool age, that are learning, how to color and put crafts together and things like that, sitting there and listening to the stories. And so while the babies would come to those programs, they're not really participating. So I kind of talked to my director and realized that not only was it something that was lacking in our library, but it was also lacking in the community, because that's when I found out that the closest program, it was half an hour away. So this is kind of where I came into the picture and what I decided to develop. So I graduated from Millikan University in 2013 with a Bachelor of Arts in Music. And during my time at Millikan, I was a music education major. And one of the requirements was that we had to observe several different classes. And one thing that we had to observe was a music and movement program, which happened it was at the university, but it was kind of like an outside thing that happened once a month on Saturdays. So I went in and shadowed and thought it was an amazing program. They had a couple of different sessions for varying age groups to really break it up. And I'm not sure if that program is still going on. Millikan is in Decatur, so it's fairly close. It's about 20-ish minutes from here. But the problem with that program is that it was only meeting once a month, and it was extremely expensive. It only went in so many sessions, and it would cost upwards of $200 or $300 to attend, which just isn't very practical for a lot of the people in this community. So I decided that I wanted to take that knowledge and create a program involving music for infants to fill this need in the community, to have something that was geared specifically to them. So that's where Music and Movement was born. I talked to my director, she loved the idea. So that immediately, that January, I started planning, and we decided to start the program the following summer, that way to give us plenty of time to get things together and figure out exactly what was going to happen. So right now we have the program. It's been going on for almost 3 years, and it is hugely successful at our library. We go in 8-week sessions, so we actually just finished a session this week, and then we'll start back up in a month or so and gear up for the summer. So this is the flyer for the program, and we just ask patrons to join us for this music program where we'll sing interactive songs, investigate instruments, and learn sign language. Originally, the program started out for infants 6 to 18 months old, because that's Toddlertime is 18 months to 3 years old, so we weren't sure that we wanted to have that overlap. But after the first session, we moved the age up because people were just asking for more. They really enjoyed it. And it just seemed to make sense. So we do have several that come to both once they hit that 18-month mark. But then sometimes we have some that don't start going to toddler time until after that, because they're just not quite ready for that yet, but they still are thoroughly enjoying music and movement. So the program format is, like I said, we meet on Monday mornings for half an hour from 9:30 to 10 a.m. in 8-week sessions. We ask caregivers and infants to sit in a circle around our story quilt, and I always have rhythm scarves sitting out in the middle for them to kind of play with before we get started. And then we always start our first batch of songs with rhythm scarves to kind of transition into that. So we always start every class the same with our hello song. And for this one, we use sign language, and we say, hello, friends, it's time to say hello. And then we go around in the circle and we say every single child's name. So after we do our hello song, then we get into the first 10-minute session, or 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the program, sorry. And we usually do our songs with rhythm scarves and incorporate other movements, kind of transitioning into that. The middle 10 minutes is called instrument time, and we let them, basically during that time, I just put all of my instruments out on the floor and let the kids kind of experiment on their own and just kind of investigate. And I think it really helps with the hand-eye coordination and building those motor skills. So some of the instruments that we have are drums, egg shakers, xylophones, and tambourines. The drums are by far the favorite. They come into the room and immediately want to get the drums down. But after instrument time is over, then I do pick up the drums, otherwise it would never end. And then we come back together as a group and transition into singing more songs. I always make sure that the last 10 minutes start with our shaker song, because it gives them the chance to still kind of play with some instruments and transition into singing more songs without throwing a fit. So after we finish that, then we end the program with our goodbye song. And it is the exact same as our hello song. We just put in goodbye instead of hello. So that's kind of the format of the program. And then afterwards, they are fantastic about helping me pick everything up. They know that all of the egg shakers go in the yellow basket and all of the other instruments go in a white basket, and they pick up the scarves. So that's awesome too, that they're actually, they understand it's over. They don't throw a fit. They pick everything up, and it's awesome. So this is just a couple of pictures of a couple of different sessions of music and movement. So that is our story quilt there in the middle. We actually flip it over for story time, and it has a bunch of pictures of Eric Carl, but for music and movement, we have it with all the bright colors. You can see the rhythm scarves, which they love to play with, even during instrument time. Some of them will play with the scarves and just kind of wave them around. The picture on the upper right hand of your screen, that big drum is our gathering drum, which is by far the most popular. It is a very large drum, and it has a really deep sound, and they just love to bang on it with the mallets, or they will put the eggs on there and kind of bounce the eggs around. You can see some of the eggs there on the floor and maracas. And then every once in a while, I don't do it every time because they often get a little too overstimulated if I bring in my ukulele, but I occasionally will bring in my ukulele and play a couple songs with them. So a lot of people wonder, well, what are the benefits of music and movement for infants? Is it just a fun class? What's the point? But there's actually a ton of different studies showing that it is really beneficial to them. So I've put in some links there later if you'd like to go and read some of those articles. I highly recommend. So there was a study done at USC that says children's brains develop faster with music training. So again, this could go on further down the road, but I really think that starting them this young is awesome, because even the older kids that are no longer in the program, they still come in and they remember, and they their caregivers say, yeah, they still sing the songs for music and movement. So other things are that infants recognize melodies before they understand the words of a song. So that is one reason why it's so important to keep doing the repetition. So as I have down here at the bottom. So we pretty much sing the same songs every week. I try to every few weeks add in a couple more songs and I'll take some out. Because not only does it help build the vocabulary and their memorization, sorry, as they get older, but it also helps with those melodies, and they're hearing those repetitively, and so they will recognize that sound before they can remember the words. And going along with that, they try to mimic those sounds, and it helps with them learning how to speak. It also utilizes multisensory learning. So they're listening to music, but also doing movements that go along with them, and also listening to music while they're playing the instruments, because I always plug in my phone and will play some classical music for them. And again, as I said before, it helps them to develop their large and small motor skills, which has been awesome to see. I have, with this last session, there was one little girl that she started the session and was 6 months old exactly, and didn't do much. She was just kind of sitting there at the beginning, and she would hold on to the egg shakers. But by this last session, she was crawling all over the place, and she was banging on the drums and would pick up the mallets to play on the drums. So that was really cool to get to watch her throughout the weeks, learning, this mallet goes to this drum, and she would pick it up on her own and do that. Doing the songs and certain movements and stuff, it teaches them to express their emotions, and it helps improve their balance and coordination. It also promotes group learning and social skills such as sharing, which is a huge one. Some of them don't like to share the instruments. They want to keep it to themselves. But again, that's another thing that's been really cool to see, is how they will, walk up to other kids and hands them a shaker or hands them the mallet for the drum. And so they really are learning to share by being in that group as, little tiny people. They can't even talk yet, but they're learning to share their toys. So there's lots of different types of movement used in this program. It is pretty much a lap sit. We're sitting most of the time. Like a lot of the kids are pretty young, but then there are the ones that are about to be toddlers that are getting more mobile and running around. But the thing I like so much about this is not only does it do movement for the little ones, but it also incorporates movement for the parents. And I did want to say, I never realized how much of a workout it is until I had a friend come like 2 weeks ago and bring her baby, and I was holding her and I was like, wow, this really is like, I was sweating by the end of it. But we do a ton of bouncing with the baby. We do several songs with, they lift the babies in the air and it really is a great arm workout. Another song that we do is called Open, Shut Them. So some of the lyrics for that one are open, shut them, give a little clap, clap, clap. So for that, they will open their hands and close them, and then they'll clap. And then there are other things that are, walking their fingers down to their toes and creeping them and crawling them up to their chin. They lift them to the sky, touch them to their nose. So it's helping them to learn to identify their body parts. And then it's also doing those like motor skills again, because the parents will help them to open and shut their hands and move them different places. But by learning that music and hearing it over and over again, they get to recognize that, okay, when I do this, I'm touching my nose. We also do a lot of rocking. Again, more clapping with the hands are clapping and toes tapping and fingers wiggling and eyes are hiding. So that goes back again to the identifying different body parts and just building those motor skills. One of my favorite songs that we do is called the Animal Song, and each verse is a different animal. And so it says, this is the way the bunny hops. And then there's the elephants walking, penguins waddling, and kangaroos jumping. So that's just kind of fun because we do lots of bounces. And then with the elephants, it's this really exaggerated sway from side to side. And then the penguins waddling, they'll just, kind of move really quickly. And then for the kangaroos jumping, we do those lifts and jumps again. And then I don't have it on here, but there's another one that is a lot of fun called the Grand Old Duke of York. So that one you're doing a lot of, it's the Grand Old Duke of York. He had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill and marched them down again. So there's lots of going up and down and to the side. And then it even ends with flipping the baby upside down. So some of the resources that I recommend, the first one, which is my absolute favorite, and they are just awesome, is Jayberry. It's a YouTube channel, and I think they also have a blog. But on their YouTube channel, they have songs that they do, and they have them in different categories for baby lap sits. They have different story times. They even have different themes. So it might be, songs about the weather or songs about animals. So that's really cool to listen to those and kind of get an idea of, if you have a certain theme that you're wanting to do, if this is something you want to incorporate into like a story time, that is a great source. There's also a really great book called What'll I Do with the Baby-O by Jane Cobb. It has a ton of different songs and rhymes and finger plays and things like that in the book. There's also a CD that comes in the back of the book, which is really beneficial. I always tell people to use children's songs and rhymes you already know. You can tweak them and add more verses. One of the ones that we do every week that the kids love is Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And I'm pretty sure everyone knows that. You can do Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. There's so many children's nursery rhymes that are so common, that are so easy to just add them in and, add different verses and just be creative and think of different things to add in. Probably the number one question I get is about people who say, well, I don't have a background in music. That's okay. I just happen to have one, but you're not required to have a background in music. Most of the songs are children's songs and they're easy to sing. I recommend singing in a lower voice. Kind of take like your speaking voice and sing there. It'll make you a lot more comfortable and it'll make the parents a lot more comfortable when they try to sing along. If you're really not comfortable singing and no one on the staff is either, that's okay. Use a recording. It's totally fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with using a recording. Other options are like reaching out to the local school or university. See if there's somebody in your community that you can bring in to help you with this program, even if it's a one-time thing. I was talking to another librarian a few weeks ago and we were talking about music and movement, and she said they have started doing a program where someone comes in once a month and teaches toddlers how to dance. And that was something that they wanted to do for their community, but none of them on staff were able to do so. So they found someone in the community to step in and kind of fill that role. So I think that's fantastic when you can work with others. If you, as I said before, if you are comfortable singing, please sing in a lower key. I always encourage the parents to sing along and send them home with music. Usually at first they are very nervous. because they're just uncomfortable. Maybe they think they're not a good singer, whatever. But just, kind of keep encouraging them. And, by the end, I guarantee all of the parents will be singing along, especially if you send them home with the music. Then they can kind of sing at home with their kids, and they'll feel a lot more comfortable. And again, singing in that lower key will definitely help to make them feel more comfortable with singing along with you. So I mentioned that we have instrument time, and that definitely is the kids' favorite time. The drums that I have are Remo kids drums. We right now have a floor tom drum, a gathering drum, and a conga drum. They love all of them. I will say the one that's probably their least favorite is the conga. And I do have some pictures on the next slide that I'll show you. The gathering drum is that big round drum. But those I got from Amazon. And they're fairly affordable, but they are really good quality. I've had mine for like 3 years and they're still in perfect condition. They can definitely, they'll be fine with the kids banging on them. But I think that if this is something you're considering, you should definitely try to look into getting some, because the kids are obsessed with the drums. They also love the egg shakers, and they do like the maracas too. I don't have as many maracas as I do egg shakers, but they love those because they are so noisy. One thing I will say about the egg shakers, I just found some on Amazon, and they're great. They worked super well. I had no problems with them until last summer, and a couple of them busted open. So what I've done is taken electrical tape and taped around just like the middle of it to keep it safe. And I haven't had any problems since then. It's really keeping them together. So I would recommend doing something like that just to be safe, because there are little like pellets inside, which is dangerous for the little ones. I also recommend getting some chimes or xylophone. This one is a little more difficult to find. Some xylophones, you'll see them online and they're just not a good quality at all. The chimes that I have are a little expensive, but they do, I would say if it's between that or the drums, to definitely go with the drums because they like those more. They also really like tambourines, and their rhythm scarves are awesome. They could keep them entertained forever, I swear. Those I just found on Amazon, and I do recommend getting just a ton. You can usually get a big number of them for fairly cheap. And again, if you or another staff member can play an instrument, I think ukulele or even guitar. I personally like ukulele because it's so much more portable. It's great to accompany some of the songs. I would recommend not using it on all songs. I do think it's important to sing them a cappella with no music if you can. But if you can play the ukulele, I think that is a great resource, and the kids think it's super cool. So these are some of the instruments. Again, so the left hand with the egg shakers, you can kind of see that line around the middle. That's, I think, a kid just like threw it on the floor and it busted open. So I just took the like black electrical tape and wrapped around there a few times, and I mean, it has worked perfectly. Rhythm scarves, any that look like that, are awesome. They're really light and airy, and they just love to play with them. Everything else is Remo brand. I don't have one of these tambourines, but I will be getting one soon. But I mean, any sort of tambourine like that is awesome. They like being able, like with the drum head on top, being able to hit it, but then also shake it, and it makes the sound like the egg shakers. So the drums on the bottom, this one on the left, the tall one, is the conga, and it does come with a strap. That one, as I said, is probably their least favorite just because the drum head is the smallest, and it has the highest pitch, so it's not as loud as the others. They do still play with it and they like it. The one in the middle is their favorite. That's the gathering drum. It is a pretty big drum, and like I said before, it does make a really big boom, and they just love the sound that it makes. The one on the right is the floor tom. They like that one a lot. It's just slightly taller, and the drum head is smaller than the gathering drum, but they still really like that one a lot. So that's pretty much what I have for you. Are there any questions? I have a ton of music, like lyrics and stuff that I can send if people are interested. If anyone has any more questions, let me know.
Great, thank you, Ashley. There is one question in the slide that I think is relevant. Somebody is asking if they can get copies of the slides. I think you had a lot of great resources there, and they didn't get a chance maybe to jot them all down.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to, my email is up there. You can send me an email and I will send you all of the information I have, including the slides. And then I have some links and stuff to like the instruments and things like that that I can send.
Great. About how many kids attend each one of these sessions?
So it just depends on the time of year, honestly. This week I had 6 kids, but last week I had 10. During the summer last year, because there are a ton of teachers who have babies that want to bring them that can't during the school year, I was averaging between like 15 and 17 every week.
Wow, that's great.
So, yeah.
Let's see what else. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type them in the chat box. You can go to the top of your screen and choose the exit full screen mode to bring that chat box up if you can't find it. And I know, Ashley, you presented this with Noah Lenstra at the ARSL conference. Have you heard from anybody who attended there that implemented this program or a similar program?
I had people emailing me asking for my information. No one has reached out and said that they have implemented it. I did actually just present this again just on my own at the Illinois Youth Services Institute.
Oh, great.
I had several people that told me that they were interested in implementing something similar in their library. So I'm hopeful that other people will take this information and apply it to their own, because I do think it is a great program.
Great. And then we have another question from the chat box. Someone would like to know is this a drop-in class or do you require registrations for it?
So we do require registration, but if somebody shows up, I won't turn them away. The registration is mostly just to get an idea of how many people-ish to expect. There's always more that sign up than actually come to the program, and that way I have the contact information for the parents. But if they do show up, then I will just say, hey, can you just register for me really quickly?
Great. And looks like a question from Kathy about the rhythm scarves. Do they just wave them in time with the song, or how are they using those?
So we have different movements that we'll do. So like a good example, one of our songs that we do is called The Fish in the Sea, and it's to the tune of Wheels on the Bus. So for this one, we do the movements that go along with the words in the song. So like the first verse is the fish in the sea goes swish, swish, swish. So like for that one, they'll take their scarves and kind of go back and forth like this. And then for the second verse, it's the dolphins in the sea swim round and round. So then we take the scarves and go in a circle. And then there's the sand in the sea drifts down, down, down. So we hold them up and then kind of let them float down. And then the waves in the sea go up and down. So we do that. And then there's like another song that we do called Popcorn Kernels. And so it's like popcorn kernels, and they're just kind of floating their scarves around, and then it's in the pot. And so you take the scarves and push them in your hands like this, in the pot, and then shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them till they pop, and then you kind of pop the scarves up. So they go along with whatever songs we're doing, but sometimes they do just fling them around.
Okay. That's great. Heather is asking if you offer literacy tips during the program about how singing helps children learn to read. If so, do you have a list of them?
I do not. I do think that's a good idea. But so one thing that we do promote during that time, and we do it with all of our story times, is we have 1,000 books before kindergarten at our program, or at our library. And so we will tell people about that. But other than, I don't read any books. I don't do anything like that because it is just like strictly the music. But if anybody has any questions, this information is available to them, I guess. But I don't like explicitly bring it up every class period.
Yeah, I think that's great. We definitely see libraries doing a wide variety of programming to do sort of whole health and wellness these days. Okay, any other questions in the chat box? I don't see any coming in. We'll give people a couple seconds to type anything. Thanks, Ashley. This was great. I think this is a really great program that you're doing. It's always great to see movement and that kind of stuff for kids and music, especially when we hear a lot about that stuff going away in school.
Yeah, for sure.
I missed a question. Thank you. It looks like, do you have any advice for offering a music and movement class for a larger age range? They're thinking of doing one from birth to 5.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, so you want to have one session that's birth to 5? Because I personally think if you can, I think you should break up those age groups, just because there's such a huge difference in a 5-year-old compared to like a 1-year-old. That's something that we are working on at our library, transitioning our toddler time, because right now I don't do the toddler time, someone else does. But we are going to kind of transform that into being not completely like music and movement, but to be an extension of that, where we do the music aspect, but then also read stories and do maybe an activity or two. But like for us, we're doing ours 6 months through 24 months, just because I think it's that right there is kind of a big age gap, because developmentally speaking, there's just a huge difference between a 6-month-old and a 24-month-old. The 6-month-olds are just sitting there in their parents' arms. They're still able to enjoy it, obviously, but the toddlers are running around. It's just different. I have had, I will say, parents with older children bring them in. Like, one of my favorite stories to tell, there's a family, they had 2 little girls. One of them was under 2 and the other one was like 3.5, 4. And she came, and after the first few times, she started bringing her own baby doll to do the movements with. So, something like that could work. They are super into it as well. I think it also just depends on your library. If you do other things that are birth to 5 and it works already, I think that's a good sign. I think for us, it is working out better to break up that age group.
All right. Yeah, I think those are some good points. To definitely have a break in there where they start walking, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which can make a difference. Give her a couple of minutes to type a response or any follow-up questions she has for that. Do you have any other stories you want to share while we're waiting?
There was something I thought of, and now let me, like, some suggestions or something. Okay, one thing that happened, and I don't know, I think this might have happened since I saw you at Arcel, Bobby. So I'm pretty sure it was in the fall, and I had a session. It was totally fine. Like, everything was normal. And then the day after, I got to work and opened up my email, and I had an email from one of the moms, and she said, "I'm so sorry, but we were at class yesterday and my daughter has the chicken pox." Oh. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like, what do we do? Because, it was just like, I had never had that happen before. I just didn't know what to do. So I ended up having to contact all of the caregivers for the infants and tell them, like, there was a child in yesterday's music and movement. She, like, has the chicken pox now. And it happened, like, so the child that had chicken pox, she was only 10 months old, and the mom was like, "I'm so sorry, like, they're not supposed to vaccinate until after they're 1, is what she said." So she was like, "It's not that we're not vaccinating." But it turned out everything was fine. But then it was like, okay, all of my instruments, the quilts, everything had been exposed. So we just had to wash everything. The rhythm scarves are so delicate that I just ended up throwing them away and buying new rhythm scarves. And then everything else I just, like, washed with, like, soap and hot water and Clorox wipes just to make sure. So if something like that were to happen to you, hopefully it wouldn't. I did appreciate that she emailed me to let me know, but it was just a little crazy. And so then the next week there were only, like, a couple of kids there. I was like, oh, great.
I stayed home to make sure they're past the infectious stage. All right, and I guess I don't know. The person that had the question says that was very helpful, and they're modeling a similar program in Oregon that's birth to 6, but they agree that splitting up the age ranges would probably be better. So
yeah.
All right.
I think it could work, but I really think that splitting up is the best thing to do.
Okay, I think that's it for questions from the chat box. I'm going to go ahead and put in the link for the evaluation and the continuing education credits for those of you that are interested in that CE certificate. Please go ahead and click on that link and take that. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Ashley, this was a great webinar, and I think this is a great program that you're doing. So I'm glad we could get it out to a wider group.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the National Network of Libraries of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel. Select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.